not because they lack intelligence, but because they are trapped in a grand illusion, the illusion of control. We live our lives thinking we have everything mapped out, that the future will unfold according to our carefully laid plans. But life, like the ocean, does not move in straight lines. It ebbs and flows, rises and falls, carrying us toward destinations unknown. And yet we resist. We fear the unexpected, the uncontrollable, the vast and mysterious unfolding of existence. But what if I told you that the very thing we fear, the unknown, is the essence of life itself, that to resist change is to resist life, and to embrace it is to awaken? Most people are asleep to this truth, clinging to old stories and future anxieties, but the wise ones, they dance with the unknown. And so, the question is, will you fear what's coming, or will you open your arms to the great unfold? Most people have no idea what's about to happen, not because they are ignorant, but because they are caught in a grand illusion, the illusion of control. We move through life as if we are steering the ship, as if the tides and winds obey our commands. But life does not unfold according to our carefully constructed expectations. It moves like the ocean, wild, unpredictable, and indifferent to our desires, and yet we resist this truth. We build structures, routines, and beliefs to convince ourselves that tomorrow will be a reflection of today, but deep down we know this is not so. Think about how quickly everything can change. One phone call, one accident, one shift in the wind, and the entire landscape of your reality transforms in an instant. And when it does, what do? We panic, we struggle. We grasp for the old, for the familiar, for some sense of stability. But the universe does not operate on our terms. It is not a machine with fixed parts. It is a living, breathing thing, forever in motion. The great irony is that the very thing we fear, the unknown, is the source of all possibility. Every new chapter in life emerges from the dissolution of the old. But the mind, oh, how it resists. It clings to certainty, to the comfort of what has been. It constructs elaborate stories, projecting fears and anxieties onto a future that has not yet arrived. Most people live in this state, trapped between regrets of the past and fears of the future, never realizing that life is only ever happening now, right here in this moment. You are at the edge of the unknown, and the only question that truly matters is, will you fight it, or will you embrace it? Consider the river. It does not argue with the rocks, it does not resist the bends in its path. It flows, it adapts, it surrenders to the movement of life itself. And yet it is never passive. It carves valleys, shapes mountains, transforms everything in its path. This is the paradox of surrender, not as defeat, but as a deeper kind of power. When you stop fighting the inevitable, you begin to move with it. You start to see that what is coming is not against you, but a part of the great unfolding of your life. And what if the unknown is not something to be feared, but something to be welcomed? What if instead of grasping for control, we allowed ourselves to be curious, to be open, to dance with whatever comes next? The greatest transformations in life do not come from certainty. They come from stepping into the vastness of the unknown and trusting that something beyond our comprehension is at work. This is why most people suffer, not because life is cruel, but because they refuse to let go. They hold on to identities, relationships, and beliefs that have already begun to dissolve. They fight the tide instead of riding the wave. But you are not here to fight life. You are here to experience it. You are here to awaken to the truth that you were never meant to control it all. You were meant to participate in it, to move with it, to become part of the great cosmic dance. So the question is not what's about to happen, but rather how will you meet it? Will you shrink in fear, clinging to illusions of safety, or will you open your arms and step into the vast, unknowable beauty of existence? Most people have no idea what's coming. But you have the choice to awaken, to embrace the unfolding, and to live fully in the only moment that ever truly exists, now. The great unfolding is always happening, whether we see it or not. Life is not static, it is a river, constantly moving, reshaping itself, dissolving the old and creating the new. Yet most people live as if tomorrow will be just like today, as if the ground beneath their feet is solid, unchanging, but it isn't. Beneath the surface, everything is shifting. The world you think you know is already becoming something else. And the strangest part, we know this. Somewhere deep down, we feel the tremors of change before they arrive, and yet we resist. There is something unsettling about the unknown, something that makes us uneasy. We are creatures of habit, after all. We find comfort in repetition, in familiarity. The mind creates patterns, routines, expectations. It clings to them as if they are real. But life does not follow the mind's script. It moves in unpredictable rhythms, disrupting our carefully laid plans. And when it does, we struggle. We try to hold on. We demand explanations, certainty, control. But control is an illusion, and certainty is a story we tell ourselves to feel safe. The truth is, we were never in control. We were simply moving with the tides, mistaking our fleeting moments of stability for something permanent. Think of how many times in your life something unexpected happened, something that at first seemed terrifying, chaotic, even disastrous. And yet, looking back, can you see how that moment led you somewhere new, how the very thing you resisted was the thing that set you free? This is the paradox of life. The unknown that we fear is also the space where transformation happens. It is only when the familiar dissolves that something new can emerge. But most people don't see this. They are too caught in their fears, too attached to what they think should happen, to recognize the deeper intelligence at work. There is an old saying, man plans and God laughs. Not because life is cruel, but because life is wiser than we are. We think we know what is best, what will make us happy, what will bring us peace. But how many times have you chased something, believing it would fulfill you, only to realize that it wasn't what you needed at all? And how many times has something unexpected, something you never planned for, led you to exactly where you needed to be? The mind is limited in its understanding. It sees only a small fragment of the vast, infinite dance of existence. It cannot comprehend the full picture, the larger unfolding. And yet we trust it blindly. We allow its fears, its doubts, its resistance to shape our lives. But what if we didn't? What if, instead of resisting the unknown, we welcomed it? What if, instead of fearing change, we embraced it as part of the great mystery? When you stop trying to control life and start flowing with it, something incredible happens. You become free. Free from the weight of expectations, free from the need to have all the answers, free from the illusion that you must always be in control. Life is not a puzzle to be solved. It is a dance to be experienced, and the more you resist, the more you suffer. The more you let go, the more you come alive. Most people are asleep to this truth. They live in fear of what's coming, anxious about the future, clinging to the past. But you don't have to. You can wake up. You can step into the unknown, not with fear, but with curiosity, with openness, with the understanding that whatever is coming is not against you, but for you. Life is not happening to you, it is happening through you. And when you realize this, everything changes. You no longer need certainty, you no longer need control. You simply need to trust, to surrender, and to embrace the unfolding mystery of your existence. The mind, in its endless quest for security, creates stories about what is coming. It constructs futures in which everything remains stable, predictable, and under control. But reality does not obey these mental projections. Life is not a script, nor is it a machine with fixed parts. It is fluid, alive, always shifting in ways beyond comprehension. And yet, most people cling to their illusions, believing that if they think hard enough, worry long enough, or prepare meticulously, they can prevent the unexpected. But the unexpected is not an error in the system. It is the system itself. At any given moment, the entire course of your life can change. A chance encounter, a sudden realization, a single decision. These things can redirect your path in ways you never imagined. And while some changes arrive gently, others come like storms, sweeping away everything familiar. This is where most people become lost. When the storm arrives, when the foundations they relied upon begin to crumble, they panic. They see the loss, the chaos, the disorientation, and they think something has gone wrong, but has it? Or has something deeper, something greater, been set into motion? When the old collapses, space is created for the new. But if you are too focused on what has been taken away, you will not see what is being offered. This is why suffering exists, not because life is cruel, but because we refuse to trust it. We fight against change, grieving for the past while fearing the future, and in doing so we miss the only place where life actually happens, the present. Life does not exist in your memories, nor in your predictions. It is only here, now. But most people are blind to this. They are too busy trying to control what cannot be controlled. The ego, the sense of self that clings to identity, status, and expectations, wants to believe it is in charge. It fears anything that threatens its carefully built sense of order. But the paradox is this. The more you try to control life, the more it slips through your fingers, and the more you let go, the more you find yourself exactly where you need to be. Letting go does not mean giving up. It means surrendering to something greater than yourself, to the rhythm of life itself. It means understanding that just as the ocean does not resist the tide, you do not need to resist the flow of existence. Imagine a leaf caught in a river. It does not struggle against the current. It moves with it, trusting that the river knows where it is going. This is how life works. The more you resist, the more you suffer. But the moment you surrender, you become weightless. You begin to see that what is coming is not something to fear, but something to be embraced. Every great transformation in history, personal, societal, or cosmic, has begun with the collapse of what came before. And while destruction seems frightening, it is only the beginning of creation. Most people have no idea what's about to happen, not because they are incapable of seeing, but because they are looking in the wrong direction. They seek certainty in a world that was never meant to be certain. They seek permanence in a universe built on change. But the wise ones, the awakened ones, do not fear the unknown. They step into it with trust, with curiosity, with a sense of wonder. And so the question is not whether change is coming. It is. The question is whether you will resist it or embrace it, whether you will fight against the river or allow it to carry you somewhere new. Most people live as if life is a series of predictable events, as if tomorrow will unfold much like today. They build routines, establish patterns, and cling to familiarity, believing that stability is the natural order of things. But life is not stable. It is in constant motion, shifting beneath our feet, even when we are unaware. The reality is that everything you know, everything you have built your identity upon, can change in an instant. And yet, rather than embracing this truth, most people resist it. They fear uncertainty, not realizing that uncertainty is the very essence of life itself. The unknown is not a mistake. It is the source of all growth. Every breakthrough, every transformation, every great shift in your life has emerged from a place of uncertainty. Think back to the most pivotal moments in your life. Were they planned? Or did they arrive unexpectedly, shaking your foundations, forcing you to grow in ways you never imagined? There is a deep intelligence in the way life unfolds, one that operates beyond the grasp of the rational mind. But because we cannot see the full picture, we label the unknown as frightening, as dangerous. We resist it, cling to old patterns, and struggle to maintain an illusion of control. But control is a myth. You can plan, you can prepare, you can try to hold everything together, but the nature of existence is movement, and movement does not ask for your permission. It comes when it is time, whether you are ready or not. The choice, then, is not whether change will come, but how you will meet it. Will you resist, fighting against the tide, exhausting yourself in a battle you cannot win, or will you surrender, allowing life to take you where you are meant to go? To surrender does not mean to become passive. It does not mean you sit back and do nothing. It means you recognize that you are part of something far greater than yourself, something vast, mysterious, and beyond comprehension. When you let go of your need for control, you begin to flow with life rather than against it. You begin to see that what you once feared was never the enemy, but the very force guiding you toward your evolution. Imagine a tree in the middle of a storm. The rigid branches that refuse to bend will break under the pressure, while the flexible ones will sway, adapting to the force of the wind. This is the difference between suffering and freedom. Those who resist the unknown, who hold tightly to their expectations, will find themselves shattered when life moves in unexpected ways. But those who trust, who remain open, will move with the changes, finding strength in their flexibility. Most people do not realize this. They live trapped in the illusion of permanence, believing that if they just hold on tightly enough, they can stop the flow of change. But the wise ones see through this illusion. They know that the unknown is not something to be feared, but something to be embraced. They do not ask, "How do I stop change?" but rather, "How do I move with it?" They understand that what is coming is not meant to harm them, but to awaken them. And so, when you find yourself standing at the edge of the unknown, ask yourself, will you step forward in fear, clinging to what was? Or will you embrace the mystery, trusting that life has always known exactly where to take you? Most people have no idea what's about to happen, but you have a choice. You can fight against the current, or you can let it carry you somewhere new. There is a strange paradox in the way people live their lives. On one hand, they long for change, something new, something better, something that will free them from the monotony of their existence. Yet when change arrives, they resist it with all their might. They fear the unknown, even though the unknown is the only place where anything new can emerge. Most people have no idea what's about to happen, not because they lack intelligence, but because they are too attached to their expectations of how life should be. They are looking in the wrong direction, seeking certainty in a universe built on constant motion. Everything around you is shifting. The world is not the same as it was yesterday, and it will not be the same tomorrow. The thoughts in your mind, the emotions in your heart, the cells in your body, everything is in a continuous process of becoming something else. And yet, most people behave as if things will always remain the same. They build their lives on ideas of permanence, believing that their relationships, careers, beliefs, and identities are fixed. But life does not work that way. Just as the seasons change, just as rivers carve new paths through the earth, life is always reshaping itself. And those who resist this truth find themselves in a state of suffering, trapped between what was and what is yet to come. The fear of the unknown is what keeps people stuck. They stay in situations that no longer serve them, holding on to jobs that drain them, relationships that confine them, and beliefs that limit them, not because they are happy, but because they are afraid of what lies beyond the familiar. They tell themselves, "At least I know what to expect here," as if predictability is more valuable than freedom. But the greatest moments of growth, the most profound awakenings, come not from staying where it is safe, but from stepping into the unfamiliar. Think of every major transformation in your life. Did it come from carefully following a plan? Or did it arrive unexpectedly in a moment you could not have predicted? Perhaps it was a sudden loss, a meeting with someone who changed your perspective, or a realization that shook your entire way of thinking. Whatever it was, it did not come from clinging to certainty. It came from the very thing you once feared, the unknown. And yet, looking back, can you see how necessary it was? How that moment, which once seemed chaotic, was actually guiding you to a new way of being? This is the great irony. The more you resist change, the more painful it becomes. But the moment you surrender, the moment you trust the unfolding of life, something shifts. You begin to see that the unknown is not your enemy, but your greatest teacher. You start to understand that what is coming is not something to fear, but something to embrace. When you stop trying to control everything, you make space for something greater to emerge. You become like the ocean, flowing with the tides rather than fighting against them. Most people are asleep to this truth. They spend their days lost in worries about the future, trying to predict, control, and plan their way to happiness. But happiness is not found in certainty. It is found in presence, in the ability to be fully here, fully alive, no matter what is unfolding. And so when life begins to shift, when the ground beneath you starts to tremble, do not grip tighter to what was. Let go. Trust. Step forward with open arms, knowing that the unknown is not the end, it is the beginning of something new. You see, we live in a world obsessed with achievement, with destinations, with this constant need to become something other than what we are. But the moment you measure your worth by how far you've gone or how much you've done, you fall into a trap of illusion. Because what if I told you that there is no such thing as failure? That you are never behind, never broken, never in need of fixing. You are simply unfolding, as all things in nature do. The tree does not rush to bloom, nor does the river apologize for winding. And so, to never give up is not to grit your teeth and power through. It is to realize that life is not pushing against you, but calling you to return to yourself, to focus not on the noise, but on the stillness within. You see, we live in a world obsessed with achievement, with destinations, with this constant need to become something other than what we are. But the moment you measure your worth by how far you've gone or how much you've done, you fall into a trap of illusion. Because what if I told you that there is no such thing as failure, that you are never behind, never broken, never in need of fixing? You are simply unfolding, as all things in nature do. The tree does not rush to bloom, nor does the river apologize for winding. Life, in its infinite wisdom, moves through you just as it moves through the stars and tides. And so the idea that you're failing, that you're somehow off course, is merely a thought, a whisper of fear dressed up as truth. To never give up is not to clench your fists and force yourself forward. It is not the fight against life, but the surrender to it. Real strength isn't found in resistance. It's found in the trust that even in your stillness, even in your darkest nights, something meaningful is at work. The moon does not shine all the time, and yet no one doubts its return. So why doubt yours? But here's where we often stumble. We think that persistence means constantly striving, constantly fixing, constantly improving. Yet true persistence is presence. It is the quiet, stubborn courage to sit with yourself when the world demands you to chase distractions. It is the radical act of staying with your breath when your mind wants to escape. When you focus on yourself, not from a place of ego, but from a place of awareness, you begin to see clearly. You begin to understand that you are not here to become someone better. You are here to remember who you've always been. That remembering comes when you stop comparing your path to anyone else's, because comparison, you see, is a kind of violence. It is the root of discontent. It is the subtle message that your own life, your own becoming, is not enough. But the wave does not compare itself to the next wave. It simply rises and falls with the rhythm of the ocean. So too must you come to trust your own timing, your own unfolding. The tragedy is that we have made success the god of our culture, and in doing so we've forgotten how to live. We've confused motion for meaning and applause for purpose. But life, real life, happens in the quiet moments, in the in-between spaces. The world will tell you to look outwards, to prove your worth, to chase validation. But I invite you to turn inward, because when you begin to focus on yourself, not the persona, not the mask, but the awareness behind it all, you reconnect with something deeper than ambition. You find peace. And peace does not mean a life without struggle. It means knowing that even in your struggle, you are held by something vast, something eternal. You are not a mistake. You are a process, an ever-unfolding miracle that cannot be rushed or replicated. So, never give up, not because the world demands it, but because your very being is movement, is rhythm, is song. Even when you feel lost, you are not truly lost. You are simply exploring a part of the forest you've never walked before. Trust that path. Trust yourself. And remember, focusing on yourself is not selfish. It is sacred, because when you learn to see yourself clearly, when you stop running from your own reflection, you begin to walk through the world with presence, with clarity, with love. Focusing on yourself, then, is not an act of selfishness. It is an act of sanity. It is the decision to stop outsourcing your worth and start listening to your own inner rhythm. It is the courage to say, I will no longer abandon myself for acceptance. Because every time you pretend to be something you're not, just to fit in or be loved, you trade authenticity for approval. And approval is fleeting, but authenticity, that's eternal. When you walk your path without apology, you begin to see that life supports you in mysterious ways. Even your setbacks, even your delays, are part of your unfolding. You are being shaped, not punished. You are being carved, not broken. What you see as failure might simply be redirection. What feels like rejection may be protection. There is wisdom moving through your life that you do not always need to understand. You need only to trust it. And so, persistence is not about never falling. It is about realizing that falling is part of the dance. No one watches a dancer and says, "They stumbled for a moment, they must be terrible." No, we understand that it's all part of the movement. Why then do we judge ourselves so harshly? Why do we believe we must be flawless to be worthy? And so, persistence is not about never falling. It is about realizing that falling is part of the dance. No one watches a dancer and says, "They stumbled for a moment, they must be terrible." No, we understand that it's all part of the movement. Why then do we judge ourselves so harshly? Why do we believe we must be flawless to be worthy? You were never meant to be flawless. You were meant to be real. You were meant to feel deeply, to learn slowly, to grow in your own strange and beautiful way. And when you give yourself permission to grow without comparison, you create space for peace to enter. So focus on yourself, not out of arrogance, but out of reverence. Because you are not some project to be perfected. You are a being to be embraced. And when you finally stop running from yourself, when you stop trying to be what the world expects, you become something far more powerful. You become free. Never give up, not because you must keep climbing, but because you've finally realized there was nowhere to climb to. You are already enough, you always were. And that truth, when lived, changes everything. There comes a time when you must stop asking the world who you are and begin listening to your own soul. You see, as long as your attention is fixed on others, what they think, how they live, where they're going, you remain a stranger to yourself. And the tragedy is most people spend their entire lives trying to be someone else, not realizing that the greatest gift they could ever offer the world is the truth of who they are. Focusing on yourself is not isolation, it is intimacy. It is the art of coming home. Now, many will tell you that focusing on yourself is selfish, that you should always be serving others, always giving. But what are you really giving when you are empty? What are you offering when you're disconnected from your own center? The tree does not apologize for taking in sunlight. It does not feel guilt for growing upward. And yet, by honoring its own nature, it provides shade, fruit, and shelter. It is by being itself that it becomes a blessing. So too with you. You must nourish your roots before you can offer anything real to the world. And this, truly, is why you must never give up. Because to give up is to walk away from your own becoming. It is to abandon the possibility of discovering who you are beneath the layers of expectation and fear. You are not here to mimic anyone else's rhythm. You are not here to repeat another's journey. You are here to unfold in your own sacred timing. What looks like delay is often divine preparation. What looks like silence is sometimes the universe whispering, "Not yet, trust me." But trust is hard when you've been taught to measure your life by results. When the world demands instant success, instant clarity, instant happiness, patience feels like failure. But it isn't. Patience is power. It is the ability to be with what is, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's unclear. Because something deep within you knows you are not lost, you are not forgotten, and this moment is not wasted. Everything you need is already within you. It's just waiting for your attention, your acceptance, your quiet listening. The funny thing is, we spend so much time trying to fix ourselves as if we were broken. But you are not a problem. You are a process, a living mystery. And every version of you that has existed, from the most confused to the most confident, has been part of the journey home. You didn't need to be perfect to be worthy. You didn't need to have all the answers to be complete. You only needed to be present. And presence begins when you stop looking outward for direction and start noticing the life that is unfolding within you, your fears, your hopes, your longings. They are not flaws. They are invitations. Each one is a signal from your inner world asking you to pay attention, to be gentle, to stop running. So, never give up, not because quitting makes you weak, but because continuing makes you real. Because somewhere in the quiet persistence of your heart, in the soft refusal to abandon yourself, lies a strength greater than anything the world could ever offer. A strength that says, I may bend, I may fall, I may feel lost, but I will not leave myself. I will not forget who I am. I will not trade authenticity for acceptance. And perhaps that is the real victory. Not the success they promised you, but the wholeness you reclaimed when you decided to focus on yourself, not to escape the world, but to meet it fully as someone finally awake. What if I told you that the real work of life is not in conquering mountains or chasing grand ambitions, but in learning how to simply be with yourself, without shame, without resistance, without the constant need to escape? You see, we are conditioned to believe that something outside of us will finally bring us peace, the promotion, the relationship, the recognition. But peace isn't a reward, it's a return, and you return to it not by achieving more, but by becoming still enough to hear the quiet voice within that says, you are already whole. To never give up is to understand that the journey is not about becoming someone else, it is about unlearning who you were told to be. Because much of what we carry, the doubt, the fear, the pressure to prove ourselves, was never truly ours. It was given to us often by people who were simply repeating the patterns given to them. And so focusing on yourself is not selfish. It is how healing begins. You cannot break generational pain by continuing to betray your truth. You must stop the pattern where it lives, inside. That means learning to be kind to yourself in moments when the old voice returns, the one that says you're not enough, you've wasted too much time, you should be further by now. That voice is not your enemy, it is simply a ghost, a leftover whisper from a time when you had to shrink to survive. But you're not there anymore. You've outgrown the prison, and now you must stop feeding it your attention. When you give yourself permission to focus on your own inner world, you begin to notice how much of your life was spent performing, how often you smiled when you didn't feel joy, said yes when your soul screamed no, kept moving when what you really needed was stillness. And then the real miracle happens. You begin to slow down. You begin to breathe. You begin to ask not what do they want from me, but what do I need in this moment to feel whole? That question alone can change your life, because it shifts the direction of your energy inward. It gives you space to choose again. And when you choose from presence instead of pressure, you are no longer reacting. You are responding. You are no longer living by default. You are creating from awareness. This is what it means to be free. And yet freedom is not glamorous. It is often quiet. It means walking away from the noise, even if it means walking alone. It means being misunderstood by those who still define success by speed and status. But you will come to see that the solitude you feared is actually sacred, that in the silence of your own heart there is a vastness, a wisdom, a love that the world could never give you, because it was never missing, was only waiting. So never give up, not because there's some reward waiting at the end of the road, but because the road itself is where you meet yourself. The road is where you shed the layers, where you drop the masks, where you finally see your own face in the mirror and recognize it not with judgment, but with awe. And this recognition that you are not broken, not late, not behind, is the quiet revolution that changes everything. You stop chasing and start trusting. You stop performing and start being. And in that being, you discover the beauty of this life, not as a race, but as a dance. One that has been moving through you all along, just waiting for you to hear the music. There is something deeply powerful about staying true to yourself in a world that constantly asks you to become someone else. It's not easy. In fact, it may be one of the hardest things you'll ever do, to choose your own path, to listen to your own voice, to stand in your truth even when no one claps for it. But that is the essence of what it means to never give up and to focus on yourself. It's not about endless striving or proving anyone wrong. It's about remembering again and again that your life is not meant to be a reaction to others. It is meant to be an expression of your inner being. We often confuse strength with hardness, with pushing through pain, with pretending we're fine. But true strength is something softer. It's the willingness to be honest with yourself, to admit when you're tired, to slow down when you've been running for too long, to step back and ask, is this really my path, or is it just the one I was told to walk? These questions aren't signs of weakness. They are signs of awakening. They are invitations to stop living on autopilot and to start participating in your own becoming. And becoming is never linear. Some days you'll feel clear, other days completely lost, and both are part of the process. The seed does not bloom the moment it is planted. It breaks open in the darkness first. It falls apart in the soil before it ever reaches the light. So if you feel like things are falling apart, perhaps they are also falling into place. Perhaps you are not breaking down, you are breaking open. To focus on yourself is to stop abandoning your own soul in favor of the noise. It's learning to say no, not just to others, but to the parts of yourself that keep dragging you away from the present moment. The part that says you must always be busy. The part that says rest is laziness. The part that whispers you are only worthy when you're achieving. You are not here to live a life of constant acceleration. You are here to live fully. And fullness requires space. Space to feel, to reflect, to reconnect. And in that space, you begin to see clearly. You begin to notice what drains you and what fills you, what aligns and what distracts. You begin to gather your energy back from all the places you've scattered it, from people who never saw you, from dreams that were never really yours, from versions of yourself that were built only to survive. And in gathering that energy, something beautiful happens. You return to your center. You stop chasing and start creating, not from fear, but from clarity, not to be seen, but because you finally see yourself. This is why you must never give up. Because beneath all the noise, all the fear, all the self-doubt, there is a light within you that has never gone out. It may flicker, it may dim, but it does not die. It is the part of you that has always known who you are. And every time you choose to pause, to listen, to trust, it grows stronger, not loud, not dramatic, but steady. And that steadiness becomes your compass. So let the world move fast, let others chase whatever they must. You, stay grounded, stay awake. Focus on the only thing you truly have, this moment, this breath, this life. It is enough. You are enough. You always were. And the more you live from that knowing, the more everything else falls into place, not because you forced it, but because you finally aligned with who you really are.